Right, so hello, welcome back to the podcast. We've done our usual of starting conversation before this has even started recording. So we were already yapping about stuff to do with certain people and not wanting to sit in the process and trying to move things along a bit. We were just sort of saying there's so much information available online these days that people go and see it and they listen to whoever's opinion it is about what certain stage of the process they're at, and they're looking at other people of a similar age to them. Usually it's younger people or people in the same division or class or whatever. They're going, they're doing this. Oh, I'll do that. Or, they're this thing by this certain age. Like, say you've got like a classic guy who's a pro at 25 and looks incredible, and somebody who's 21, 22 who wants to become a classic pro. They assume that because they're only 3 years younger or 4 years younger, that in 3 or 4 years' time, that must mean that they'll turn pro and be that big because the age gap is there. When in reality, that's not the case at all.
No, absolutely not. And it's like I was just saying before we actually started recording. It's starting to really annoy me because people aren't aware about how to actually efficiently grow muscle. Now, I'm literally going to preface this by saying we're talking about natural clients, right? Because at the age, realistically, between the ages of like 18 and 24, in my opinion, your hormones are all, for males, your hormones are already so super high that realistically, if you eat correctly and you lift some heavy shit on a repeated basis, you're going to grow something. Something is going to work. It's not going to be accurate. It's not going to be optimal, which is what the kids say these days, optimality, whatever. But you're still going to grow, right? I've got a junior athlete. He's 17 years old. We're basically plying him with a crap load of food, obviously with all of his mineral derivatives, et cetera, et cetera. And at the moment, I'm just saying, just go in, have some fun. I want you to record your sessions, and then I will obviously build something out for you. But his mentality is, but I've got a weak back. I've got weak arms. I'm like, mate, you're 17. You've got weak fucking everything. You have to build everything.
You realize you were Phil Heath.
Yeah, exactly. And this is what we have to really focus on. But I'm seeing it so much more now from a natural perspective that people are literally going in saying, oh, my weight's dropped. I've got to add more food. No, you don't. No, you don't. Because as a natural who doesn't really train that hard, you don't need to increase your food. You need to earn your increases in terms of your food. Okay. And it's as simple as that. If you are not looking better in terms of obviously muscle growth, muscle definition, even density, which you're not going to look dense, even some of the 25-year-old pros who are assisted still have soft baby muscle because it just hasn't matured yet. So if you're a natural guy who's 22 years old, who says like, I need more food, no, you don't. Train harder and train better. Don't think that you're going to emulate these pros up
I've
there.
had to do a fair amount of that today, of saying to clients, like, just because you're screwing your face up and making noises when you're lifting does not mean you are training to failure.
No.
Like, it's one of those, it's a learning curve, to be fair. You can't sit there and be like, oh, pathetic. But when it's week after week and you're like, come on, I'm telling you what to do here. There's more in the tank. Like, if you want this, you can push it. And they don't do it. You're like, this isn't PE. I'm not the PE teacher like fucking cracking the whip. I'm there like, if you want to do this, you will recognize that pain is a good thing and
Mm.
you need to push into it. Otherwise, you will not be breaking down the muscle enough. It will not have a reason to adapt. So if you want to go in and do your 3 sets of 10 and just do whatever and move some weight around with as much mechanical advantage as possible,
Mm.
but that doesn't mean that just because you've done that, you're going to get bigger. Nor is it the right thing to do.
No, absolutely. And it does come down to obviously, you can do 3 sets of 10, you can do an intensifier set, you can obviously do a load of different rep ranges, but you just need to get better at training and you're never going to know absolutely everything. I've been training for the best part of like 2.5 decades, right? Because I'm old. But even now, I'm still videoing my own sessions and having a look at it and thinking, shit, okay, that's crap. And oh, I need to change this bit and all that didn't feel right, and all of the rest of it. Alex, for the first time in years, you started sending me form videos as well because we're sorting out little niggles and foot placements and everything else. You're never going to know everything. You're constantly learning and you constantly have to strive to get better. So train better. Now, it's not just in terms of obviously the people who are newbies into the gym. I've got clients myself who I really have to have quite stern conversations with them and say, you are not ready for a food increase, regardless of whether your weight has gone down or not. You are not ready for a food increase because all you're going to do is get real fat real quick. And we do not want that. We don't want fat people, but none of my guys are fat in the off season. And if there is, there's a big problem that's going on. You know, some of them might be a little bit more kind of like puffy, in a sense, a little bit chunky, but chunky is completely different than being fat. We do not want to be fat. Fat does not grow muscle tissue at all.
Yeah.
So that's number one. The other thing is that comparing yourself to other people on the internet. I've got females where they're saying, I really want to grow muscle tissue. Okay, great. Let's start eating food. And then they start, you know, gaining weight and everything else. And they're like, oh, I'm getting fat. Welcome to being a natural female, you know, and because you're looking at somebody who's saying, I'm natural. I've been doing this for years. Girls, they're not natural. They might have been doing it for years. They might have been doing lots of other things for years, but they're not natural. Okay.
Well, I think you get plenty of girls like in bikini and that sort of thing that stay lean all the time, and you're there like, well, they've not had a period in years, and they are not healthy, like extra, like internally and in here, like
Yeah.
they have a disorder. If you're staying crazy lean constantly, even as a bloke, like I will see plenty of even the classic physique guys that are staying like 10% body fat year round. And funnily enough, you get some problems that go with that. You know, not just burnout, not just like the constant pressure of staying lean, but like, what about exposing your body to, you know, overuse and potential injuries and stuff like that? Like, it does happen from staying too lean too long.
Yeah.
So it is one of those where like you do have to accept the fact that you aren't going to look Instagram pretty all the time. And I think more than ever, especially if you've watched people go through the years of gaining more and more tissue, as a guy at least, and they are doing their off seasons and they're not getting fat anymore, and they're not getting puffy and bloated anymore, and then they're staying relatively lean. They've still got abs. Maybe you've got a glute line in there. People are like, oh my God, just so lean in the off season. It's like, no, I just have more muscle.
Yeah, that's all it is. I mean, I'm going to use Miguel as an example. So Miguel was the guy who literally just competed this weekend. Got his pro card. Now, me and Miguel have been working together for about 4 years. He first came to me as a rescue prep. So he was, and I can show you the pictures of when we first started together, when we went into our first prep. Mate, he looked like a little boy, like literally a prepubescent boy. He looked terrible because he had no muscle mass on him whatsoever, but he really wanted to compete. He was taking a huge amount of drugs and some things that I would even think to myself, what on earth are you taking this for? Massive amount of diuretics, everything else like that. And we're talking diuretics like 2 weeks out from the show, which is just awful. Absolutely terrible.
That's an American coach favorite, that is. Like, oh, just run directs for a week.
Yeah, this one wasn't American. This one was Brazilian. He was a Brazilian coach.
That's just what the Americans do, double it.
Yeah, exactly. That's basically what it is. So when we first got together, it was a rescue prep. I basically had 3 weeks to do something with his physique. And I basically said to him, you're not going to look your best on stage because this is too far gone. Okay, I wanted to pull him out, but he obviously wanted to compete. He competed, I think, out of 13 guys, he came 12th. So, you know, it was a learning curve at the end of the day. We then had a heart-to-heart conversation, and I said, listen, if this is what you obviously want to go for, this is what we're going to do. You're going to have two years away from stage. And that is exactly what he had to do. And he had to like it or lump it at the end of the day, because there was no way I was just going to do a 6-month off season with him to then put him back on stage to look exactly the same. So 2 years we spent. Do you know how many times we cut down in 2 years?
I don't know how many diets you did.
Yeah.
3?
One. We did one. And this is where a lot of people get it wrong because they're like, oh, we push up and then we pull down, and then we push up and then we mini cut. And it's just like, no, you can push up and then you can fucking maintain. There is nothing wrong with maintaining. Maintaining solidifies shit and you actually grow more from a maintenance element once you've obviously started pushing up. Yeah, when we push up, we don't need as many drugs, really, especially when we were in his because we had to clear out a system anyway. So when I gave him more food, we reduced his drugs. Right. So, but when we obviously cut down, we can increase his drugs to make sure that he maintains his strength and maintains his performance and maintains his recovery in that deficit. But that was the one time that we did that. All the rest of the time, it was either pushing up or maintaining, pushing up or maintaining. He gained so much muscle tissue throughout that 2 year period. It was unbelievable. And it literally looked like he swallowed himself. Now, even though when we got back on stage last year, we went for the pro qualifier, he was signaled out, which was beautiful. And we really thought that he was in the chance for a pro card. He went back onto the evening show. They gave it to somebody who they actually put up onto the lineup in the 5th position. They gave him the 2nd place and then put Miguel in 3rd because Miguel's tan was off. I was like, fuck you. Really pissed me off. So because of that, we did all of that work. We solidified everything. We said, right, this is what we're going to do. We're not going to have a full off season. We're literally going to get back to everything, have some time off, get back to everything for 4 months in terms of growth. Then we're just going to prep. We're just going to go for the pro qualifier. And that's exactly what we did. And fair dues to it. He listened to everything that I said. He executed everything absolutely appropriately. We used less than a gram of gear. Preface to that, Miguel is 5'3". And he weighs like 132 pounds. So he is small, but he doesn't need a lot of gear. But still, we don't need a lot anyway. So less than a gram of gear. He was a macro tracker for a bit until I obviously said, right, I'm taking over your meal plan.
Yeah, you have to do that at some point, though. Like people are
Oh,
there, like, how much lettuce can I eat a day?
yeah. Well, with Miguel, he actually started wanting to eat 3 meals a day. And those 3 meals, you know, there's like little pre-made pancakes that you can get.
No.
Yeah, he was using those as a carb source. I was like,
Oh,
mate,
okay.
come on. And the Chips Ahoy cookies, he used to have those as well as.
Just
I'm like,
stop.
mate, come on.
Stop.
So
Honestly.
I took over everything. So we had to do all that. And then obviously he started coming in beautifully, went in, smashed the class, obviously got his bantamweight pro cards, really, really chuffed about it. But this is what I'm saying. Shit takes time. And even though you may think that you are ready for these push-ups, these cuts, these tidy ups, nothing is wrong with fucking maintaining. Like literally
Nothing's
nothing.
wrong with waiting either.
And
Like,
waiting. Exactly.
you don't have to be pro at 21 years old to be considered successful. You don't have to be the next Bumstead winning an Olympia at 23 or whatever. Like, and you couldn't, I don't think you could do that now, to be honest. Like, the division's so hard that
Mm,
it's just not going to be possible anymore. So someone will do it now.
yeah, exactly.
um, but yeah, it's like just you don't like my off season now. Like my weights fluctuated around 100, top end of 106, 107 for a while, and the
Mm,
looks kind of just slowly improving as I'm getting better at training. Funnily
yeah,
enough,
I
and
know.
that's well, it's just like oh, that magic rather than I think people would rather it be the thing which it isn't. Like it's obviously the train. Whenever somebody looks a certain way, it's the training.
Yeah.
Guys who I love it when people are like, "Oh, the pros never even train that hard." It's like you're watching a DVD from when they were 2 weeks out. Like they aren't gonna be lifting 7 plates on a barbell squat like they do in the off season. Like it's just not gonna happen. So, but I would say that the training is something which is massively looked over, especially now when you've got all of the science lot being like, all you need to do is full range of motion for 6 to 8 reps, and you will grow all the muscle in the world, and la 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 la. And it's like, well, you haven't considered the factors of injuries or niggles or certain movements not fitting people, or like my favorite is you only need the bottom half of a calf raise to grow calves. Do you fuck?
No, you need
Do
full.
you? It's like you might destroy your Achilles that way, yeah, for sure. But like if you're not contracting that calf, it's not going to develop any shape.
Absolutely. I
All they've
think,
done, it's like they've measured the growth for 8 weeks on untrained individuals or even trained individuals, and they've gone a bit heavier and they've put on like a centimeter
yeah, I know.
off.
saw a post on socials today actually, and it was this kid, and I swear to God, he must have only been about like 20 or something. And he said, 7 of my favorite studies that I have read in regards to muscle growth. I'm like, nobody fucking cares. Like literally nobody cares. It really doesn't matter. The studies also, it's all nuance at the end of the day. The studies have got some premise, yes, absolutely. But this is where it also comes down to things like your nutritional aspects, right? You know how I'm banging on about minerals, and I have been doing for a very long time. Well, guess what? Now in the industry, lots of people are starting to talk about minerals, especially sodium and potassium. And it's like, oh, funny that, but first of all, you all consider salt. Now it's potassium. Oh,
This book is quite old now. This has all of that in it. Fun
yeah.
enough, it's sports nutrition, and the guy that wrote this book is like one of the leading sports nutrition guys. He's in Loughborough University. Like,
Yeah.
it's all there.
But now I've started noticing a lot of people, especially kind of like crack on about calcium. Although I did comment on somebody's post and I said, you forgot calcium. And he's like, oh, that's a whole different rabbit hole. It's like, no, it's not. It's one of the most important minerals that you need. But anyway, but people are starting to talk about calcium. And the problem is that when you hear people talk about a certain something, but then you never actually see them apply it, they don't understand it. They're just rabbiting what they're actually doing. They're repeating. Yeah. So that's all they've done. They've watched a couple of I'm not going to say it's all me, but they've watched a couple of things on social media and they've taken snippets of it, but now they don't know how to apply it. So
Welcome to coaching. Welcome to online coaching. Talk about thing that they've gleaned and gone, yeah, I'm in the know.
I know that now. And it's like, no, it's not. No, you don't. Because when we talk about calcium, we talk about potassium, and these guys rabbit the information, they repeat the information. You catch them out every single time. How? Because they put on a full day's worth of eating. And there isn't a single element of calcium.
There's not even like a vegetable.
Nah, nothing.
Not that there's loads of calcium in vegetables, but you know what I mean.
But yeah, absolutely. But nothing in terms of talking about manganese, nothing in terms of talking about phosphorus. But the calcium.
They're like, oh, but it's in the way, and they're like, it's not in the way.
No,
it's a byproduct of milk like that. So it's not in the way.
Exactly. But the calcium things really get into me because it's just like people are so afraid of dairy because they say that it's inflammatory, right? It's a pro-inflammatory aspect. In some cases, it can be. Not in every single fucking case.
Makes my muscles huge.
Huh?
Makes my muscles huge. Very inflammatory.
Yeah, very inflammatory, but in a positive manner. But it's when you hear people repeat like some fucking robot, and then they never apply it, and you can always catch them out because their full day of eating is like, what I eat on a training day, cream of rice, fruit, dark chocolate. Okay, fabulous. Oh, and whey drip. Shoot me. That's the only thing that they have as a pre-workout. Intra-workout, far ton of carbohydrates, like literally nothing else.
100 grams of cyclic dextrin.
Yeah.
Which you can't absorb all at once either.
Yeah, post-workout, either another bowl of cream of rice and more whey drip, or chicken, rice, and pineapple.
Cereal.
Or cereal, yeah. I've seen that kind of disperse a little bit.
Yeah, people have stopped doing that.
Fourth meal, always a carb-free meal. Because it keeps you leaner. Or we're going to have like a fuck ton of sourdough bread with something or other, or it's another chicken and rice meal, or beef and rice, or whatever. Not a potato in sight, by the way. Like literally none.
I'm not any potato at the minute, to be fair. I just can't be asked.
And then final meal, guess what? Another bowl of cream of rice. So we've got no calcium, realistically a small marginal amount of magnesium, but not enough to actually have the full crossover that is needed. Fuck ton of sodium, but obviously because we haven't got the potassium, it doesn't really help anyway. So it's not going to obviously push things in. No manganese, apart from the small amount in terms of your rice. Iron, a little bit in terms of the beef, but no vegetables. So we're not even getting non-heme iron going in. And then no calcium at all, apart from nothing. So, I don't really understand, but these people are literally just kind of going, oh, but these are the studies that I really enjoy. That's nice. Now apply it. Apply it. It's the same thing when it comes to anatomy. I've got a new client who's joined me this last week, came from a different coach, and he was sending me some training videos. I was like, why have we got this in there? It does not suit your leverages at all. Your pelvic stability is basically non-existent. Now, this client has got one leg. So he's got one leg and he's got a prosthetic. your exercise selection based on that anatomy has got to be absolutely fucking perfect. Doing a behind the bicep cable curl, sorry, behind
All
the
over.
back. Yeah, a single arm as well, by the way, because it makes sense.
Mm.
He still programmed legs. Obviously, you should still program legs, but because he didn't have a clue on how to program somebody with one leg, it was a single leg extension and a single leg press.
Well, I guess it depends how much leg they have.
Just above the knee, it was cut off. Oh.
But you're just not working that leg then, unless you're doing some like hip flexor raises. But I don't know how much hip flex you got left.
Which is fine, but the thing is that you don't need to work that leg, but you can still work the glute because the glute is
Yes,
going to
you'll need to work the glute, otherwise you'll end up completely fucked.
absolutely. You still
Yeah.
need to work on stability. Now, if you think about somebody who's got the anatomy of obviously just having one leg and having a prosthetic, how do you think that they're going to walk? So their walk is going to be realistically like a limp. He's not going to have knee flexion because it's
That's just
obviously
it.
above the knee. So
Yeah.
it's going to be a straight leg hip that he's going to be walking with. So because of that, what happens to the spine? The spine is going to become misaligned, right?
Yeah.
So we've got spinal misalignment, we've got pelvic misalignment, we've got instability throughout the actual torso itself. So doing things unilaterally, even from an upper perspective, just will not work.
Yeah, it's just pointless.
Absolutely. So when he was sending me all of these videos, I was like, mate, this is completely awful. You know, we can't just do unilateral movement for you because you are
You can't
literally,
stabilize them like you've got one leg.
yeah, absolutely. Now, what we are also doing is we're actually going to go for a record, which is the strongest single leg press. Okay. And in the world, it is 400 kilos. He's already up to 270. I know, yeah. Mad things.
400 kilo single leg press. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. I know it's mad,
What did
right?
I did 5 plates aside on the Cybex, the squat press, and that did that for 10. That was heavy.
Yeah, so that's 200. D460. Yeah.
Yeah, that's 200 kilos. So yeah, double that. No.
No, exactly. But I mean, he's already up to like I think he said it was 270 that he was up to for a single leg press, which is pretty damn fucking decent. Do you know what I mean? But again, he could be a lot stronger as long as he has the pelvic stability there. That's all he needs. So I'm having to completely overhaul everything from top to bottom in order to make sure that he is stable from the nape of his neck to obviously the tip of his toes. So, and then we also have to take into account not that from an anatomical, I don't know why I can't. Anatomical. From that perspective, we have to take into account whether or not he still has pain. Because if you have an amputated limb, you're going
pain, yeah.
to limb syndrome, exactly. So, and it's like, do you still have phantom pain? And he said, yeah, I still get pain in my foot. So, but this is something that we have to take into consideration at the same time, because if his foot is painful, even though it's not there, it can cause even greater instability, which means that we even have to think about the psychological aspect of certain things. So there's so many different things that we have to take into account when it comes to somebody's anatomy. Now, obviously, he's an extreme case.
Yes.
But anatomy still has to be our number one. People go on about fucking biomechanics and moment arms and this, that, and the other, and how to align the lat on a lat pull down. Fuck off, mate. You're not even looking at anatomy, and you're not looking at individualized anatomy.
I mean, to be fair, you can still work your lat. Like, it doesn't matter how long your arms are. Like, you can still do it. It's just you have to look at it and go, right, are you using your bicep more? Does this machine suit you? Like,
okay, so answer me this then. If we can still obviously work the same kind of movement, because it doesn't matter how long your limb lengths are. Imagine Dieter, who's 6'10". Would you program him the same movement as you would program me at 5'1"?
Depends if he's not going to fit in the machines.
Well, that's very true. However,
if I want him to do a single arm lat pull down, he may just have to do a modified version of it because he's very tall. But I'm still going to want him to train his lat, and like that's how you would do that.
Yeah, okay. But what about the size of his lat, and what about the insertion points? How big do you think his lats are going to be, being how tall his torso is?
They're quite long, wouldn't they?
It's enormous.
Yeah.
It's enormous.
Yeah, so but you still train them the same way, like,
It's slightly different because of the the anatomical, I can't say that word, because of the anatomy that's there, his lat insertions are going to be completely different to somebody who's going to be 5'2", 5'3", 5'6", right? It's completely different. So the way that he needs to set himself up onto a particular machine, is single arm going to be more beneficial than double arm? Possibly not.
To be fair, you can say that about anyone.
We could, you're right.
Because
But
some
again,
people just don't get on with single arm because they end up all bicep, whereas other people don't get on with dual arm because they end up all bicep.
yeah,
So
for sure.
it's like, find out what works and what doesn't. It doesn't,
Yeah.
you could have somebody that's someone who's 6'5" and another person 6'5", and they'll have completely different feelings across machines.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
yeah, it just comes down to whatever works for you. But most things work for most people, unless
Yeah.
like a
As long as
major injury.
yeah, exactly. But if we have a look at obviously things like femur length, right? Obviously, Dieter's got a
Squatting,
huge
yes, barbell squat is not going to happen.
barbell squat is definitely not for him and not
Well, it
for
doesn't
Tim.
happen for me. I've got long legs and a short torso. It doesn't happen.
Yeah, exactly. But you see, a hack squat for you works really nicely. You can
Yes.
work really beneficially with a hack squat. Hack squat for Dieter, we have to elevate the platform to such a high degree that it's almost like he's going at a horizontal platform because of his femur length.
Yeah, which would make it more glute biased as well, wouldn't it?
In a sense, but because he that's the only position that he can get all the way down. It's the only way that he can get to full extension in terms of his quad.
Well, yeah, because if his femur's that long, then
Mm.
if his knee starts to travel, like your ankle flexion would have to be insane for it to
Yeah,
actually work properly. So he'll still get that knee flexion with with the elevated foot plate,
yeah.
regardless, because his femur is so long.
Mm. So
So
it's all about differentials and making sure that you are programming anatomy before biomechanics. Biomechanics is piss easy. Anybody can deal with biomechanics. But if you forget about the anatomy beforehand, then you're missing out an entire portion. So, and again, this is when people start to say, oh, I'm looking at the biomechanics. Fine, apply it though. You're not applying
yeah, a lot of it would be common sense, but I think
it.
a lot of people that maybe are in that position who'd been that guy's coach, not a very experienced coach and not a very experienced bodybuilder either. They just say, "Oh, well, you just do that because you do it." It's the same
Mm,
way as people they can't explain to you why a certain thing is done. They don't know why it's being done. Oh, we
mm,
always do it like that. It's like, okay, well, then you don't know what you're on about. I would
yeah.
say it's like diuretic use as well. It's horrendous for that. You ask somebody to explain how diuretics work, who prolifically uses diuretics with clients, and they just tell you the time frames. They don't tell you why.
Yeah, exactly. And ask them to tell the difference between loop and non-loop diuretics
Hmm.
and what they are. They have no fucking idea. They don't even know what diuretics were originally used for, which, it's used for heart failure patients. Heart failure patients accumulate water around their lower limbs. So guess where the first place you're going to lose water is from?
Ankles.
Your fucking quads.
Hmm.
That's the reason why you see bodybuilders who abuse diuretics in the three. They've got flat as fuck legs because all they're doing is pulling out all of the water. FYI, people, you need water in order for your muscle to look full. The amount of people I see carry on dehydrating on show day. Oh, I can't drink because I need to be dry. You're going to look fucking watery. You're actually going to look watery. Because do you actually know the difference between aldosterone and antidiuretic hormone?
No, of
Absolutely not.
course they
Because so
don't.
you don't know how physiology works.
Hmm.
So again, people the coaching realistically, people think is just here's a meal plan, here's your training, off you fuck, I'll speak to you in a bit. And then next week comes around, right, here are your drugs, and oh, throw a bit of, like trained by JP Lapart in, because that'll be suffice. That'll be efficient. Okay, that is not what coaching is. Coaching realistically is understanding a person and understanding how they move, what they can metabolize, what they can uptake, and what they can actively digest. You can eat a fuck ton of food and you can take a fuck ton of drugs. But if you can't digest, you can't metabolize, and you don't know how to actively partition those foods with decent training, you're not going to get anywhere. You're just going to look like a big fat puffy mess.
Yes, and I think a lot of that as well comes down to just people not stressing themselves out or being stressed out by something else.
Mm,
The role that that has on all those things you talked about is massive, and I see it quite a lot, especially with the advent of social media and people looking at other people online, stressing themselves out that they're not in the position that somebody else is, and it's just like, well, why are you continuing to worry about where somebody else is rather than yourself? all you're doing is making yourself look and feel worse.
Yeah, exactly. Miguel did it all the way through. Kept on sending me pictures of these guys who were shredded, but not bantamweight,
No.
massive fucking bodybuilders who were taking many drugs.
Well, also, his show was a pro card class, so what's he worried about?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
It's not a very European thing to do, then.
I thought that it was the top two who got the pro cards in that show, and it wasn't. It was only one. So it was only him who got the pro card in the
Can you
bantamweight.
imagine if they gave out 10 pro cards in open bodybuilding?
I know.
That's just a piss take.
I know. And I think this is the problem with obviously having a pro card, because it's just like one of my clients, she got a pro card.
What?
She got the invite to obviously go into the Milan Pro Show this year. And she's like, well, that's very nice of you, but I'm not a pro. And they're like, you are? You got your pro card last year. And she's like, oh, fuck. So I don't know what on earth obviously happened there. But now we're obviously competing for the pro show in Milan.
Which federation? Like IFBB? Fuck.
I know, yeah, she didn't even know. So it was, but I think this is the thing. When the pro cards first started coming out, it was coveted. It was just like, this is such an achievement if I can get
It's
one.
still coveted. It's just a lot more accessible.
Yeah, very much so. And I think it's almost like it's taken the special out of it. Can't think of the word, but the exclusivity, that's what I'm talking about. The
Yeah,
exclusive.
it certainly made it like, I'm an IFBB pro. And back in the day, if you were an IFBB pro, obviously they were only open guys, you'd be a house.
Yeah.
And people go like, what the actual fuck? I mean, I still get people look at me occasionally and be like, you're huge. But I'm like, you haven't seen an open guy. You haven't seen an open pro, that's for sure. And I do feel like in heavyweight open bodybuilding, that's the only place that is like left, where it's like, holy shit, that's a professional bodybuilder. Like people like, I still get like, what do you do for work? And I'm like, I'm a pro bodybuilder. I'm like, oh, yeah, I can see that. It's not like, yeah, of course. Like you can't do anything else, which is what it used to be.
Yeah.
Especially with like, Fit Model.
Oh.
There's like a billion. There's already like a billion of them. And I couldn't name you one of them.
Yeah, exactly.
And Classic has gone like that. There's plenty of us. There's thousands of Classic Physique pros, and you can name maybe 10.
Yeah.
So it's the thing is the exclusivity, the top end always reveal themselves. So those people who are the best will always rise to the top, and those are the people that we look at now. But the pro card has made like a subclass of people that are pros but are not pro level or like top level pros. So yeah, if you're not coming first call outs regularly in pro shows, people probably aren't going to know who you are. And even then, if you are, that doesn't guarantee that people do. If you're winning pro shows, cool. People are probably going to know your name. And then it's like, okay, if you're top 16 at the Olympia, people will probably know you. If you're top 10, they'll certainly know you. And if you're top 5, yeah, you're on everything. Like you're seen by everybody. So that's kind of the hierarchy now. And it's not, oh my God, you're a pro. Wow. Because there's so many shows these days. They've got to fill them. They've got to have enough people. It's just it's throwing enough bodies at it. And we have to remember that bodybuilding is a business.
It is. It's a big business.
$275 a year from people competing, that's a nice paycheck. It keeps it going. And then you've got money from promoters. And if we want the sport to get bigger and you want more prize money, you've got to put more bodies in it. So I 100% understand why they've done it. And it's the prestigious areas only get harder to reach because there's more people in the way.
Yeah, very true, very true.
So it's become more competitive, but the access to the really hard competition has got easier.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I do think that bodybuilding now, it's an exciting time for bodybuilding in my perspective. I do really think that it is because people do want to strive to get those pro cards. People do want to strive to get to the Olympia. And you do see some people, not everybody, but you do see some people really like tanking their ass off in order to try and get that, and they're like robots. They stick to everything like glue, which is amazing. But then you do still have like the tail enders who just kind of go, well, I want to do a show because it looks fun. And that that isn't exciting to me. I mean, there are some people that I saw on some of the stages over the last kind of like 4 months or so, and I just think to myself, why? Why are you doing that, really? And all of these people who say, oh, I want to do it because I've lost, like 40 kilos or something. Do you know what? Good fucking on you. Do a photo shoot. Don't step on a bodybuilding stage when you're not ready to step on a bodybuilding stage, because in my perspective, it makes a mockery out of the sport. It
Well,
really.
I've got a guy I do some posing with who he's lost like half his body weight. Like he's gone from 180 kilos to 90 kilos. And
Nice.
obviously there's a lot of loose skin. And he's going to do the transformation show, which is run by Christian Guzman in
Yeah.
Texas. But he's also going to do classic physique because he's like, I'm never going to get on a bodybuilding stage other than now.
Mm.
And I was like, well, fine, do it. You're not going to win it, but at least you did it.
Yeah.
And and it's like you're going to be there in how you look, and you'll do well in the transformation challenge. But in classic physique, you're not going to do well because you don't look classic physique. He knows that, but they're like, I want to get up there and do it regardless. He's only going to do it the once. Yes, it doesn't. It's not exactly those guys stood around and be like, okay, well, I've beaten this guy already, whatever. But I think for those people doing that, if they do it once, it's like, okay, cool, I've done that thing, that's ticked off. But if they keep going back with loads of like obviously not fitting the category, it's like, why do you keep going? This is some kind of mental illness.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you don't fit this, nobody's celebrating this. Like eventually people just be like, what are you doing here?
Mm.
So yeah, it's one of those where it's like we want to be nice to people, but sometimes it's for the wrong reasons.
Yeah. I totally agree. Sometimes we've got to be the arsehole and just say no.
Well, I think that'll swing back round. We're definitely in the era at the minute of everybody being super duper nice, and everybody's, there's apart from in like proper competition with stuff, there's no like everybody's a winner, everybody gets a medal, and it's like,
Do you remember
no,
Sports Day when you were a kid? Sports Day, not every fucker got a medal.
no, it was gold, silver, and bronze. That was it.
You win or you lose, and that's it. Not everybody gets a medal. So I
Yeah.
don't understand where this whole mentality came from about saying that, oh no, this is a participation medal. No, I don't like that. First, second, third, cool. Draw.
Well, they
But
do like, look at any of the amateur shows now, you get a medal, and it's just like here's your participation, and then here's your winning one, and
yeah,
then like from like when I did FitX, I've got like fucking 4 different medals from one show, and I'm like, ultimately, all I wanted was the sword, which is in the fucking other room. I can give a shit about the end of the other stuff,
yeah,
and it's like, how many different awards do you want for something that doesn't mean anything?
yeah, absolutely. It's so funny.
It's just, but we live in that era now, which is additionally why pro cards are handed out so easily. And, my show, when I did Classic for my pro card, there was 60, 70 dudes competing in Classic. One of us got it. It was me. And that's how I think it should be. You get plenty of people arguing like, oh, you shouldn't be getting a pro card for a second place. And they're like, oh, but this guy's now at the Olympia. It's like, so he should have done another pro qualifier and won that one, shouldn't he? Like it should be made to be a bit more difficult so we can, but you're trying to grow the sport, you're trying to grow the top end. It devalues what it means to be a pro, but it makes it harder to be a good pro.
Very true.
So you've got to look at it in a couple of different ways. It just means that it takes another level of getting good to get the level of respect that you might deserve, basically. So
Yeah.
it just adds another layer to it, which is like an unseen hidden layer. Like I've had guys who are clients at the minute, and they're like, "Oh, I want a pro card, this, that, and the other." It's like, well, you're fucking 30 pounds below your weight cap. You might win one in the US. You might. If you're 30 pounds below your amateur weight cap and you win a pro card, you're now 40 pounds below your pro weight cap, and you've got 3 years to make up that gap to be anywhere near close to being competitive. Do you want to go from winning a pro card to getting 12th place at a pro show? I don't think so.
No, exactly.
So it's like, do the work, get good enough before you do that. Otherwise, you're just going to you're going to have a really bad time of it. Because there's no participation awards in pro shows, and it costs a lot of money to go to them. When it comes to the actual people are going to earn money, when competition begins. Not this, oh, isn't it nice, mamsy pamsy, sort of like everybody's gets a partition away for it. It's like, no, we've all spent a good amount of money to be here and we all want to fucking win it because it wins us our livelihood, recognition, actually moving forward in this sport. You're about to enter the world of sharks and you
Yeah.
are but a goldfish.
Yeah.
Like, it's not the same.
No,
So
you're right.
you can't carry forward that attitude of like the participation medals to real competition.
Mm.
It just doesn't work like that. So I do think that like we're definitely living in that time where people are living outside of what the reality of competition looks like. And like, it's funny because obviously people say like, oh, they're going to war when they go to the gym and that sort of thing. But like the attitude, sports are simulated warfare, aren't they? That's what it is.
Yeah.
And that's when you get to top end shit, it's like, yeah, people are putting their life into this. If you're not, you're getting left behind, mate. Like, so you need to be prepared in all sense of that. So easy pro cards are not something which will prepare you for that fact,
Mm.
which is hard because I've got my pro card. Okay, next week everybody else gets their pro card too. So
Yeah, and you're forgotten about anyway in like 2 minutes.
yeah, which is why a lot of people find the crash from winning a pro card really hard, and then they stop bodybuilding because they're
Yes.
like, oh well, now I'm going to focus on other things. It's like, okay, well, you should actually spend the next 3 years hyper focusing on bodybuilding because you're shit now.
Yeah, absolutely. But anywho, so well, we can obviously go on for hours and hours and hours as we always do. But I have mentoring, so I
Mm,
need to kind of do one.
cool, cool. Right, well, we've yapped, so we'll see you in the next one.
We will see you next episode.
Bye bye.